Hey ChessKids, FunMasterMike is back, and if you watch one of my recent YouTube videos, you saw my favorite game from my favorite player of all time. That would be Mr. David Bronstein. And today we're going to take a look at maybe his shortest game of all time. I don't know. It's another miniature, and this comes from the King's Gambit. Some of my advanced chess kids might already know that from the pawn structure. And in the King's Gambit, when you move your f-pawn, well, first of all, you're supposed to get my written permission. But if you do move your f-pawn, you absolutely should not move your knight as well, because this diagonal is incredibly weak. And here, David Bronstein's opponent got a little bit greedy and played knight takes e5. I would have done pretty much any other move except for that one. Now, the queen says, thank you very much for the invitation to attack your king. Queen to h4 check. The king tries to hide on f1. Now, you might be jumping up and down in your chair, knocking things over at your desk, screaming out and bothering your little sister or brother, and thinking, hey, it's just knight to g3 check, because the pawn is pinned and I win the rook. Yes, but if you win the rook, you're going to lose your knight, your f7 pawn is weak, your king is still in the middle of the board. There's actually a little bit of compensation for white if you play knight to g3 check. So, Bronstein played an unbelievable move, which the first time I saw it, I didn't even understand it. I truthfully didn't understand it until the end of the game. Now we do see the double attack on f7, so Bronstein plays bishop e6, which kind of looks like a defensive move. However, it actually has a very devious trap in mind. Now white was probably thinking it was a defensive move, and the white player played bishop takes, I'm sure expecting the pawn to take back. But actually, there was a reason that Bronstein deflected this bishop. Let's see if you can find the very, very deep calculation that Mr. David did. Well, if you're back without pausing, I don't think you gave yourself enough time. But maybe you paused and you just rejoined me. Maybe you had a cup of coffee and looked over the position. But wait a minute. Hot chocolate. You're supposed to drink hot chocolate when you're 7. In this position, now knight to g3 check is so much better. How could it possibly be better? Well, now when the king tries to hide, you don't really want to go to these squares, right? If you go to these squares, there's going to be certain double checks that lead to mate, and we're not even going to get into all the variations. The king thinks it can hide on the square g1, but now bishop c5 check. Now all of this could have been played on the previous move. However, there's a difference with the bishop on e6 versus c4, and here's the big difference. The only move, and I do literally mean the word literally, okay? I'm using the word literally. Literally, white must play the move pawn to d4. But after pawn to d4, now we take the pawn. Again, this could have all been played the previous move, so I haven't revealed my secret yet, or really David's secret. Now in this position, I guess you technically could put the bishop in the way. So the queen reasonably, though, needs to capture the bishop. And after queen takes, then David Bronstein wins with knight to e2. And we still haven't revealed yet, but I think you're probably getting the hint. If there was a bishop on c4, the bishop could take the knight, and then if the queen gives check, the bishop would block, and black would just be down half of his army. But in this position, that's not possible. The only piece that can take the knight is the knight, which would result in mate. Look at this. Black is down, how many? 3? 1, 2, 3 minor pieces, and yet it doesn't matter. It is checkmate. And of course, if you don't take the knight, you're going to lose your queen, and I don't think white has enough compensation for the queen in this position. An unbelievable idea, and white actually resigned, which means that David Bronstein won on the 12th move, just about as quick as you could ever reasonably win a chess game against a strong player. There you go. That was my favorite miniature from Mr. David Bronstein.